want to give honor to the people whose stories I'm telling. It's a really lovely word. His 10 o'clock shadow looked less like safety and more like the riot police of silence. You make weird decisions when you're feeling stuck. And I was stuck. I traveled 125 kilometers in 12 hours. Moments before the trailer had stopped, I'd been stalking shadow-safe bushes for residents for the night. So when the truck stopped, we didn't really ask many questions. We just repeated the mantra to ourselves, anywhere is better than here. And we got it. And all he had for us was one-word answers. Yeah. No. Uh-huh. I let the slow draw and click and hum of the air conditioner fill the space. Imagined us all miners, trapped beneath the ground, in the quiet undertow of not really knowing what to say to the present or the unpredictable. Glance at Shadow Man, nothing. Glance at him, nothing. Shift in your seat. You try not to think too much. You know, you try not to think. You don't want to think. You just want to be, so you try not to think too much. You try not to think. The light from the dashboard, orange and red, glows violently into the black cab. It reminds you of this wood stove that you never really learned how to light properly. So it was always just a glow, you know, no flicker. You think about all the people in the world who live their nights like this, always. The children of the coal and charcoal burning places of the world going blind by 30. How we blame them for the future of the sun going to sleep forever. Don't think about it. Don't think about it. The silence gets to you, so you shift in your seat. You shift in your seat. Go back to the mine shaft. Yeah, the mine shaft. The darkness, the silence, the darkness, the silence. Shift in your seat. The thinking, the mirrors. The same boring conversations, one after the other. Same boring conversations, your circadian rhythms lost to dim-lit flashlights, never knowing when to sleep, never knowing when to wake. The only recognition of self, of other, being the voice, because everyone looks the same in the dark. Think about things you once saw above ground. Color. All your wishes, what would they look like? Your grandmother's face, oh, your grandmother's face, your mother's face, car crashes. Don't think about it, don't think. Silence gets to you. You shift in your seat. You shift in your seat. You try to craft puns about coal and methane, muscle atrophy, and silence without a canary. No, don't think about it. Don't think. Just relax. Don't think. Just stare out the window. It's dark. Stare out the window. Look at your friend. He shifts in his seat. He shifts in his seat. Yeah. Oh. Uh-huh. Don't think. Think about too much. And then you think. Maybe I should say something. No, don't speak. Don't speak. Oh, don't speak. No, don't speak. Shift in your seat. Don't speak. You think, all of a sudden, about this video you watched in anthropology class in high school. Or was it college? It doesn't matter. You just remember your horrified classmates' faces. As you watched this video, of this group of people who believed that if you'd lost your voice, that you were no longer alive. And you remember the cameraman focusing in on this woman's still moving body as her family and a local shaman sung her silence into the ground. Don't think about it. You think you know what it's like. When you've been in the dark so long, the light can be debilitating. The way your shadow scares you. The way your voice disembodies from your vocal cords, the sitting, the standing, the shifting, the thinking, the mirrors. In the 4th grade, my teachers took us all out to see a total eclipse of the sun. Before going outside, they told us not to actually look at it, but to look at it. But to not look at it, because we'd probably go blind if we did. And I remember standing in my purple sun-iced snowsuit, cold Alberta winter morning, looking at the sun, but not really looking at it, hoping to God I wouldn't be curious, peek at the eclipsing sun and endure the darkness forever. I peek at the moon through the windshield of the truck. Witness its pure, perfect, imperfect circularity. Shadow Man just stares at the road. Try not to think about it. Try not to think about how many moons this man must have to be eclipsing. Try not to think. Try not to think. Don't speak. Don't say anything. And certainly don't ask. Don't ask. Don't think. Don't ask about the question. Don't ask the question that you want to find, that burning question, to find that burning answer of just what this shadow of a man, gearing up, gearing down, pressing for air, rubbing his chin, is the shadow of. Don't think about it. 10 p.m. He is bloodshot and black coffee, mumbling in the truck stop for us to eat whatever we want. It's on his bill. 1 a.m. He does the thing that every hitchhiker fears the most. He doesn't ask. He just pulls the truck over onto a dark, abandoned side road. And somehow, I just trust him when he offers me his only pillow and the deliciously carpeted floor of his very fancy black cabin. In the morning, at a Tim Hortons north of Sudbury, I watch him curving through the other drivers in the parking lot. No longer a shadow man, no, he is a highway cowboy. And when he gets in the truck, his double-double spills and his humanity spills. He says the first words he's said to us in 12 hours. See those 2 men over there? And I nod. It's a courtesy, because I see them. Oh, they're under leather vests with bellies drooping over belt buckles on jeans so green, they're so dirty, they're starting to turn green. One hand on their coffee, the other on the chrome wheel of a truck that could be anything. Could be a banjo, or a lady, or a big fat hog of a bike. I imagine them all together on weekends off at the lake, their wives dangling toes at the cottage, talking about their tattooed ass cheeks. That one slept with the other one's wife, he says. You see, my friends, the road is no place for relationships, but it's the best place to go to avoid them. And this last 12 hours, my friends, is the longest time I have spent with anyone in the last 5 years. His humanity spills. And his proud unattachment, his proud joy of detachment spills all over the truck and into the parking lot. And it stays there as we drive away, hugging an empty paper cup. And I watch in the rearview mirror as the men take turns pissing behind their trucks. Buckle up, squint at the sun, and wave as they drive in opposite directions. question. It was totally ridiculous. I will tell you one small poem also from this project, and then my time is done. And thank you so much to the Storytelling Festival for having me. I have a few more sets. I just decided, the idea was that we would have 2 separate sets. I will probably this afternoon do something completely different on top of all of it. I also do a lot of environmental writing, so I might do some of that this afternoon at the Capitol. So here's a small one, and thank you guys so much for being here. Charity, ha! There was no charity, except for my own desire to see the sun from all angles, even with the canola horizon setting on Yamnuska, rising on Yamnuska, atop the tiny wings and tiny lakes of the Canadian Shield. Not even for the charity of Thompson, or Atwood, or Engel, or Newlove. I hardly knew these names. I mean, I tried to read Surfacing like 3 or 6 times. I just couldn't do it. But if there was an equivalent for a woman in a man's clothing, exception for the red hemp dress I often wore, often soaked and gathered at my ankles on the highway, I might have been it. And I was confused when I arrived in Halifax to find so many others who had apparently missed the understanding on the long suicide thumb across the country. Instead, they sat begging of Canada's already poorest to refill their pockets and return them to the West before winter, lucid and full of stories that were not their own. It doesn't matter that I got a job for far less than I was working, that my apartment on Gottingen had an old army vet that lived upstairs in his uniform, sometimes drunk in the bathtub in his medals and diapers and socks, sometimes that we called the police, and sometime that he was finally evicted, leaving behind only prescription bottles, explaining his senior citizenship at 88, his veteranship of 2 wars, and his family non-existent. I don't ask too often anymore why people's children don't speak to them. It doesn't matter that I was there, or that the others begged, or that he lived without charity. Charity. These are your neighbors. Everything else is a distraction. None of this is in the book. It's coming, it's almost done. And it will be an album. But I will be telling more environmental stories and more children stories about children, this afternoon at the Capitol at 2:30. Please tell me what I'm supposed to be. I'm glad you're here, John. Thanks so much.